Have you guys been watching the Winter Olympics? I have. Well, as much as I can, at least. I have it recorded, so when I have a little bit of time, I throw on short track speed skating. I'm sure you guys could have guessed that that one is my favorite. Well, because those short track guys are pretty similar to what I do on the ice. And it's cool for me to watch because I have the perspective of what it feels like to be doing that. You know, sure, I might not have excuse me. I might not have a $3,000 custom-made speed skate, 12-inch flat blade, and a custom-made boot. Sure, I might not be skating around in an Olympic arena, but at the end of the day, I still am an ice skater who likes to go fast. And I use a lot of the same techniques that they use, you know. For example, when you watch those speed skaters on the straightaway, they don't just push like this. It's more of they kind of scoop in and out. And there's actually a name for that. It's called a double push. Think about it. If you just stride from here, that's only so much range of motion. But if you scoop your leg in and push, it's called a double push because you literally double the range of motion of your stride just by kind of curving it inwards. Now, another technique that I also use is well, it's not even really a technique. It's just kind of something to think about. There's two ways to accelerate on ice or to go faster, not just one. I used to think that the only way to go faster on ice was to push harder into the ice. But that's not entirely true because you can also just move your feet faster. You can increase your cadence. And it's not like one is better than the other. I've kind of noticed a pattern that the taller skaters tend to focus more on pushing as hard as they can into the ice in order to accelerate, which makes sense because they have longer legs. Therefore, the range of motion for their stride is going to be a lot longer. Versus the shorter guys, well, they don't have that same range of motion. So in order to compensate, they tend to have a faster cadence, move their feet faster. And then of course there's some skaters that kind of do a combination of the two. That's kind of what I do. Like when I'm going on a turn, the first 30% of the curve, I'm focusing on pushing as hard as I can into the ice. Versus when I'm coming out of the turn and I'm heading towards the straightaway, I switch and start increasing my cadence in order to slingshot myself into the straightaway. But it's a lot of things like that I think of. Like most people when they watch the Olympics, all they know is, wow, this guy's skating and he's going fast. But when I'm watching, I'm like, wow, this dude's cadence is really good. Oh my God, his form is breaking down. Ooh. You know, I'm literally able to watch, and before the race ends, I'm able to call out the winner. It almost feels like I'm like a superpower, I guess. But it's kind of fun to watch. What's funny is my sister's a figure skater, and my dad was saying when she's over and they're watching figure skating, she's like, "Oh yeah, that was a good camel spin. That was a good triple axel." And then when I watch speed skating, I'm like, "Ooh, that guy's start was really good. Ooh, look at his cadence. He is not stopping." You know, I'm like, "Ooh, check out his double push form." You know, it's like little things like that I'm able to now appreciate, especially now that I'm on ice. I appreciated it when I was a rollerblader, but now that I'm on ice, I have a much better understanding of what it actually feels like, which is kind of cool. And there's also some other sports in the Olympics then me and my dad were talking about this. We just don't understand how they came to be. Like the luge, you know, where they have that sled and they go down that ice track, you know, like snowboarding, skiing, ice skating. Like you can find ways to just like do that in nature. You can go find some snow, you can go find a frozen lake. But the luge, you can't just go in nature and find a freaking ice roller coaster. I mean, like who came up with that? Who was like, you know, it'd be cool if we could build an ice track. Like if somebody knows how it came to be, please explain. Because, you know, that, like, curling actually makes a little more sense than the luge, in my opinion. Because, like, curling, once again, you can find some stones and some brooms and play that on a frozen lake. But the luge, you can't just go out and do that. You can't just say, oh, I'm heading to the bobsledding track. I don't think those exist. Also, how do they resurface those tracks? You can't just drive a Zamboni on those things. Yeah? So, I'm still a little curious about that one. However, what's y'all's favorite sport? Y'all let me know in the comments. That's all I got for today. Also, if y'all are in the Houston area on Valentine's Day, and you and your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, are looking for a date, come to Ice at the Galleria at 9 p.m. There's a couple skate, there's free Raising Canes, DJ, I'll be there. It's gonna be a fun time. Y'all show up. And I plan to be at the rink for like 12 to 10 hours on Saturday. So I think I'm gonna do a video on the process of me carbing up, you know, because there is thought behind it. I don't just wake up and just like eat a bunch of food. No, there's thought behind it, because number one, I don't want to eat anything high fat, because fats are one of the slowest digesting macronutrients. And, well, if I eat and go to the rink and I'm still busy digesting food, well, that takes away from my skating performance. I need to be able to eat, digest it, get the carbs where they need to be, that way I can go skate. That's why you guys will see in the video, that's why I'm not just gonna eat 200 grams of oatmeal, even though that's technically low fat. Oatmeal is a very good polysaccharide, a complex carbohydrate, which means that it takes a pretty good amount of time to digest and break down. I used to just eat oatmeal, but then I discovered that I would burn through it faster than I could digest it. So now I kind of do a small mix, you know. I Rice Krispie treats, rice cakes, the high glycemic foods, they actually have a place in my diet, especially on Saturdays. But I'll explain a little more about this when I do that video. But that's all I got for today. Y'all have a good one.